All right, here we go. So welcome to Bitcoin Core App Design call number 55. You can see what kind of interface design we're shooting for here in my background. So that's what we're going to discuss, how we can achieve this design specifically. Now, but the real topic of today is planning. I think that's the main thing. Will be other topics as well. But ideally today we can kind of bring together our brains and come up with a good plan for uh, how to move forward. And to that end, there's this Google Doc here where I put in a bunch of stuff. Others too. We've had some conversations around things. So I think just continuing on that thread would be good. And I wanted to see, Yashraj, you wanted to talk about one specific thing, location access to Bitcoin conf file. I would love to tackle that after our big topic of the just this whole planning thing, so we can settle that one. And Harold, how are you doing with
Yeah, good. I
planning?
have a few points on planning.
Mhm.
But Yashraj, I saw your project board and did you want to explain that project board a bit and talk about your thinking behind that? Because I have some tasks and we can put that within your board and hopefully that helps us be more organized.
Yeah, for sure. So, Christoph, I think you are already sharing the screen. Are you able to go to the project board?
Yeah, can you just share me a link to
Yeah.
that?
Yes. Just a second. Da, da, da.
Copy link address. Go. Okay, I see it.
Awesome.
So, Yashraj, do you want to just start off with what you mentioned?
Yeah. So I think there are like a couple of like inspirations behind this. The first one was, I think, in a previous call, Johnny or somebody just said like it would be good to like have a GitHub project board, and that got me thinking about that, and I began researching a couple of uh, trying to find good project boards, and then after you put put together that amazing Google document, I thought, hey, visualizing this might be a good way to talk about it. And so, based on that, I like created a repo, created fake issues, and then created this project board where the idea is that we have a few views, and the first one is like a roadmap view. I'll look at that as like a very high level view, mostly for someone who is like trying to see what are we doing right now and what are we going to try to do in the future, like a really high level planning view. And in this view we would only have uh, epics, right? So we will have these big ticket items that will of course be broken down into a bunch of issues which are more actionable, right? And I just like came up with a couple of milestones. I did a 1.1, 1.5, and then maybe we do a 2.0. And of course, like these are placeholders, and the items that fall under these milestones, they are also like all of it is completely open right now. But like this high level view with some sort of uh, uh, view which is very accessible to people who are not involved in the project. That seemed like a good place to begin with. Then the second one is just the backlog. uh, Backlog is the list of all open issues, and I sorted it by milestone. I think right now the filter is not set to only have open issues, but then we can like debate that as well. I thought, hey, it might be a good place also to see which are the issues that are done. So, but like that is all open, but the backlog is basically the list of all the issues that we have. um, and of course like we can like customize the views quite a lot, right? I just felt like the first one should be like a roadmap view and the backlog should be like a list view, right? Because that's the way we can look at like the whole list and like review the total workload that is there and then like talk about it in different ways. Whereas when we come to the third one, which is the current milestone, now this is more actionable. this is the this is the work that is supposed to be done in the current milestone, so it is either in flight, maybe some of it is already done, and I just felt like a Kanban board might be a good way to visualize actionable items and to like even talk about them, right? I mean, we could like have just a suggestion, like we could like have a meeting every couple of weeks or just one every month, and we just talk about, we just use this view and we talk about like, hey, these are the things what is going on with them, and we don't have to really bother about all the items in the backlog. It might be like a good thing, very actionable. Then I just have then you can see three more views there, right? Three more tabs, and the these are very much placeholders, right? These can be important areas that we want to concentrate on, or they might be really 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 big ticket items that we can really dive deep into, and we can apply the right set of filters and labels and just get the right kind of view that is useful for the designers, for the devs, and for like anybody else who might be involved. So like these three tabs are like completely open to us, right? And of course like this is just like the framework. All the specifics are open for us to talk about, like what are the milestones, how long should the milestones take, what are the tasks that are involved in the milestone, what are the tabs that are these extra tabs that I just put, like design, wallet management, transacting. Maybe it's a complete different set of tabs, so like it's a framework for us to like talk about things.
Yeah, no, thank you for setting that up. And inspired by what you set up, I did think about sort of the big ticket item, and breaking in a task. And so a big ticket item can maybe encompass about a week, and within that, it's the goals for that week that we want to hit. For this next week, I think the big ticket item should be we finished the current app feature set, and I sent a few messages on this in Discord, if you guys have seen it. But finish the current app feature set, and within there I have what is it? One about 8 tasks to that we would complete in order to finish that. Then we would move on to the basic app navigation, and so I think that's an important step because that's filling in the GUI as if the wallet functionality was implemented and figuring out that flow, what the nav bar looks like. Does it switch between mobile and desktop? So setting up that wireframe, and then we just fill in the wallet functionality. And I think that's like an easy way to move forward. So splitting up the step between the actual wallet functionality and having that wireframe in. But that's after we finish the current feature set, because there's still a couple of things that are there not wired up, and a couple of UI elements that need to be closer to the design file. So I think this is our big ticket item for the next week. The task I've outlined, I have some notes on them, and I'll send that in Discord. But I think they're defined enough that we can maybe delegate to certain people if they're interested. So Johnny, we can split up some of the tasks, and I think we have two other contributors who could possibly take on some tasks. But I think we could accomplish these within the week.
Awesome. S- I just I don't like have the Google Doc thing in my head. So how does the how does the list of items in the Google Doc relate to the list of items that I can see in Discord?
Yeah, so here's another thing where now we kind of have so many different sources of the truth there. And now I added another one on Discord. So we'll figure out how to get more organized there, but maybe take the what I sent on Discord in those tasks and integrate it into the project board, and we can and then we can figure out how we'll use that project board you set up.
Mhm.
How does
Um,
that sound?
real quick, so we're already talking about a few different things. So Yashraj, that's an awesome structure. I could totally see that work. It also requires everyone to work with it, right? This stuff only works if we diligently, update, create these milestones, put up all our issues in, keep them updated, keep the status updated, and all of this stuff. So, I mean, so far we've kind of done the opposite of that. So, I think when I think it's great. I just I think we all just need to make sure we're on board with all of this additional overhead. But as Rajesh pointed out, it does allow someone on the outside to just quickly peek in, get the big picture overview, and also dive deep into exactly what's happening. So where is everyone on doing this in general?
Yeah, I think in general for the project management, we're definitely moving towards that. I think we're just gonna figure out what it is that we use. So
But
maybe we'll
what
use
do you
yeah.
mean by we're just gonna figure it out? I mean that's what we're doing right now. The most obvious thing is to use GitHub because it has all those tools and we have repositories. So yeah, I wouldn't use Yashrams because like he said, he opened up uh, an empty repo and project and created all these fake things. So we should do that in an existing, because otherwise, you can't really cross-link across organizations, as far as I understand, right?
Mm.
So the board should be in whatever, like they're all just different views of the same thing. Like you just have issues and PRs, and these boards are just views of the same thing, right? Just sliced differently. So I think we should figure out, and I don't know if we're gonna have one of these boards in the design repo and one of the main QML repo, code repo. I don't know. That's a thing. But I mean, what other tools would you consider other than GitHub?
I mean, I set up a Jira account, but I guess that might not work for everybody and getting people on it. GitHub would make the most sense. The outstanding question is, can I set it up within our dev repo? I'm not sure as of right now. If
Yeah,
I can't even set up that board, if I can't, then I guess we can just do it in the design repo, right? The Beacon Core app.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so actually, um, let me think. So GitHub has this weird thing. Some of it might, some of these boards may live on an organization level, but separate from the repos. If that makes any sense. So even if you set one up, it
Yes.
might not even touch the code repo at all. It just pulls in from the code repo just the things that we want, but it wouldn't add anything to the code repo, if that makes any sense. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. That's something to look into. It takes a little bit to get used to.
Yeah. So for sure, that is a detail that exists, and we definitely have to look into how it exactly works.
Yeah,
And I know of repos, or sorry, I know of project boards that are able to pull in issues from different repos also, and I think that might be super useful for us
yeah,
because it can pull in from the UML repo.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing if you keep it all in GitHub is that you have stuff like automations. Like you're in an issue, you change the status, it automatically gets moved to a different spot in the Kanban board,
Mm-hmm.
for example. So you get all the notifications and everything in just one place.
Then one question is, I'm sure Christoph and Mo, you guys would definitely have access to edit the project board if it was in the design repo. Would like me and Johnny be able to edit? the whatever's listed on there? Or?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay.
Sure. So how about we take this note?
That's already, yeah.
Someone set up exactly how we can GitHub project management setup. Can we do this in the Bitcoin Core org repo, whatever? Giving everyone access, even if it happens to be in the design repo. What else
Yeah,
should we put in
Yash.
here?
Yeah, I think I remember us talking about this in an earlier meeting, and I think we settled on using the Bitcoin Core app repo, like the design repo, to do this.
Yeah, as long as we can actually directly reference issues and PRs, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. So I know that we definitely can do that, and I am happy to figure out how that works, and then talk to you guys about that, and
Would
uh,
another practical question is I have now created a research repository which is separate in my own personal GitHub, which will become bigger and bigger as we continue to do more tests. So I don't think practically speaking it's logical to put that within this project management board. Would I be able to if I create an issue, link to some research finding within my board? Would that work?
I mean, everything has a public link, right? You can always just drop in the link. I think for the project management, the most important thing is just the automation, so that things get intelligently moved around according to our workflow. When we change the status, we assign it to a project, assign it to a milestone, and stuff like that. That's the. But I think if it's just generally about linking, that is never a problem.
That's fine. If it would be possible to add in like research plans or research objectives also into the project management board under a tab, because I would that would be nice as well. I don't know how practically that would work, but it's just
Okay, how to what do you call it? How to tie in research.
yeah. I mean, once we figure out how this how adding external issues to an to an existing project board works, then we can maybe just create another view in the roadmap, and it can be like research tasks,
yeah, exactly.
and yeah.
Yeah, it's normal to do that. They call them spikes.
Sounds
So
dangerous.
on the development repo, so on Bitcoin Core GUI QML, I can't create a project board. Habaso could do it, and I should have access to create issues in it, but that doesn't work well because I'd be the only one that could edit it, right? So yeah, we should do it in the design repo.
Yeah, if we tried this and everyone needs to be able to contribute to it, otherwise it just won't work. It's too much overhead for one person.
Yeah, I mean, I think after a couple of months, and as you said, it takes a couple of months to figure out if this how to make this thing work for us. But after we are able to do that, I would say that it ideally should not take any manual work from someone who has edit access to the project board. It should probably take care of itself, like as you add labels to an issue or change the status, it would just get updated, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, I mean the reality of human collaboration is always requires a bit of pushing and pulling, but yeah, generally you can set this stuff up pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. The word ideal is doing like a really heavy lifting in what I said, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's the goal. Like this is this is like such a deep topic that I know people who spent like hundreds of hours just customizing the project board. and like getting all sorts of actionable data to be displayed. Like it's amazing what this can do. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, it's got to keep things simple though. I mean, I remember, I don't know, Jira
Yeah.
years ago was like the absolute worst UI mess. And then this agile stuff happened. And then all of a sudden, there were just like 50 different values around velocity and points. And it's like a whole science just that in the end, no one understood.
I I have one more because as Christoph mentioned the human part of this, getting everyone to collaborate together, and then Yarrow mentioned the which is the completely slipped my mind. But I think, oh yes, assigning it to people. Yarrow mentioned assigning to people. I think it would be really cool. I think it's important to maybe have some sort of functionality like we do in the Bitcoin design guide where we're assigned things so that I think it brings maybe a high level of accountability. I don't know if we want that. So if we can just assign people the tasks in the issues as well, like we do with the Bitcoin design guide.
Yeah, we should, for sure.
Yeah, it seems like even if it's a comment, you can say, working on by app person or whatever within the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so could we set it up today, the project board? Does that take time to set up? Because I could fill in the task I outlined and sort of seed that.
So I know Mo and I have a call after this one.
And then I have another one straight after that as well.
Oh, wow.
boy.
Yeah.
Calls, we 1 hour calls back to back. Yeah.
But so how about we just get through everything else right now in this conversation and see maybe there's time to set things up. I would assume
Sure.
it just takes a little bit more.
So the one of the main things I also want to accomplish with this call is have task that we get out of the call with, and we know, okay, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
So I do have notes on the tasks I sent on Discord. So if we open it up, then we can follow through those.
Let me see if this works. There we go.
Yeah, so the under finish the current app feature set, we'll start off with the first one there. Finalize the data directory picking functionality. That's for 1.1. And essentially, finish current app feature set would be the 1.1 milestone. So the question I have there in terms of design is, okay, so the user has picked data directory, and one of two things essentially will happen. Either it's a new directory, it's clean, there's no config file, there's no blocks, anything like that, and then the user will just continue to customize or go through the onboarding steps. The second thing that could happen is that there's a config file which we'll read. And so I know we've probably talked about this 2-3 times. But do we want to take them to a new special page that says, oh, we've read for these settings, and somehow they can either just continue to block clock or customize those settings?
Well, this is something I've also been wondering about. If that should be almost like a mini project to think really hard about, because there were so many problems doing the testing, to just kind of do a mini spike or whatever you want to call it, to just figure out the initial startup for the very first time, and then consecutive startups, maybe detecting if something's changed, like the directory is not there anymore, you made some edited Bitcoin conf or something like that. If we should just kind of try to write up all of the things that can happen and think through the design of all of them. I mean, right now we can just focus on this one thing, but I do feel like it might be good to just gather this stuff at some point. So right now you're saying that. Are you talking about? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So you guys need like a flow tree from all the possible states that can happen from startup and what internally where that can go in order to design that. That's fine. So I'll just keep it. I'll ignore the state right now where there's a config file,
Okay.
and just for now, it's just going to be always after choosing the data directory, you'll be allowed to customize. But I'll introduce a logic where if it's coming from the .com file, you can't customize it because you can't override that.
Okay.
So in that case, should we just make the settings that are overridden by the conf disabled within the
Okay.
GUI from being clicked on?
Okay. Scenario: user opens the app and has some stuff defined in bitcoin.conf. These cannot be overridden. So the first question was, do we notify the user? Is that right?
Yeah. So in this case, they've chosen a data directory that previously existed and there's settings in there. And so next they would go, for example, to the storage where they pick how much storage they
Yeah.
want. And so there, let's say there's a prune value in conf, and that can't be overridden. That means that store all data would be disabled because they're not going to unprune because it is going to prune. And
Okay.
then within detailed settings, for example, even the choosing the number of prune would be disabled because the conf already specifies the value.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now it's coming back to me, and this is only after you pick the data directory. The data directory itself is also part of that.
So it's after you pick the data directory within the GUI. So this scenario would happen if the user wanted to reset the GUI settings. So if there is a directory that already has settings, it was either copied over from a previous node, and now they're running it on that. And so that would have been chosen from the initial startup of the GUI, like the very first time they downloaded the binary. If it's in the okay, yeah, this is getting really complicated. It needs to be
Yeah.
written down.
Yeah, and I'm curious too. There's a difference between the data directory and the block directory, because the
There
Bitcoin
is,
conf
but
is in
not.
the data directory, but the block directory can be somewhere else, right?
So you can just think of them as the same directory for now, because they're just tied within the GUI. So
Okay.
it's really just one directory, the data directory.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so you pick it, it checks in there if there's a configuration file, and if there is one, it says, well, sorry, you can't change this stuff because I can't edit this file, and it's just going to tell you in the UI, disable stuff, say, sorry, edit this file if you want to change this stuff. You can't do it here. Something like that.
So yeah, so should there be a warning on all the settings pages?
You know,
Or
I do
just
think there is a design somewhere that says some settings are disabled because they've been specified in your Bitcoin conf file. Let me try to dig that up.
okay.
There, yeah, it's somewhere. Up,
So then for this first task, we just need a design for that warning. And then
Yeah.
from me, I'll create that flow tree of the possible scenarios and what can happen. And then we can continue that design on that.
Yeah, and that might be a future thing. There might be situations where things are not recoverable at all, which would be weird. Or maybe it just tell you, well, we can run this wallet, but we're going to have to ignore some of your settings. Is that okay? Or it might be a mixture of some of them. Or it says maybe you can use those settings, but it's not going to run very well because you set like 100 gigabytes of RAM or something.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be good to cover some scenarios because there appear to be a lot of hobbyists with previous installs and all kind of configuration files.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. If they have to re-index, if you have all the blocks, that's fine. It just takes maybe a few hours, but we'd want to tell the user, hey, something happened. You have to re-index your chain state.
Yeah.
Essentially, you have to reconstruct it. Yeah, so okay, so I'll create that flow tree and we can fill in the states there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, and I saw there might be other stuff in the future. You import a wallet that has some mini script stuff going on, and you have to migrate the wallet file or just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, did you guys see the tag on the Qt Widgets GUI repo for that PR with the migrate wallet functionality?
No, I did not see a specific tag, but I listened to a podcast about Bitcoin Core 25, and they explained some stuff there. I don't know. Is that the same thing?
I'll link it because within the Qt Widgets GUI, we're adding a menu option to migrate a legacy Berkeley DB wallet,
Yeah.
not have descriptors, to an SQLite wallet with descriptors, and the text there is very wordy,
Okay.
and this is just kind of like a side thing.
Okay. Gonna.
Just a quickly jumping in. I think I don't know if there's a GitHub issue for this item already, but like it would be awesome to have an issue and like have all of the things that we are like talking about adding, just like add those things to the GitHub issue.
This is also what I'm thinking about as well, because in Christoph's Word document over here, he has in progress milestone 1.1. And that feels very much like related to what Yarrow posted in the group as well about things to do for milestone, the current milestone. So it feels like those would be the two bits to merge in together, Christoph's list and then Yarrow's list as well.
Yeah, that's the idea. We just need to figure out the structure now, where and how we're going to post it in GitHub somewhere, somehow. Yeah.
So on the second one, so back on that list from Discord with the steps, the second one is essentially the proxy settings and wiring that up, and the question on that for the designers is there was a design, and so some of the designs are mixed between the old file and the new file, but there was a design for essentially what was a box that signaled to the user, hey, this proxy is active, or this proxy is not active. And that was above the configuration, the input fields for the proxy values. The question is, so can we move that to the main design file so it's there to implement? But then the second question is on alternative networks. So we have Tor, I2P, CJ, DNS, and I believe that the user can set a proxy for all of those, or maybe they can only choose one. I'll look into that. But do we want to have a more rich display of information in terms of the networks that the user is communicating over?
I remember this being requiring a lot of exploration, as you may see in my background here, until we came up with something. Because there's also, it's not simple. And so there are two things. One is you're just looking for this. Okay, I feel like I need to start this with a very simple write-up here. So can you structure this again for me, please? So proxy settings, you asked about this box that should show the current status.
Yeah, so here, the first thing would be if we could move this to the main file so that it's there, and not going to the old one. And then the second thing was more rich display of the alternative networks. And I'll circle around with that. But the user can set up an I2P proxy. So this is another network that the Bitcoin Core supports. And there's another network called CJ DNS. And those are all alternative networks that the user can configure and find nodes on. And so we'd want more rich display of those, right?
Okay, and so is it a similar setup where you have a default one and you can just say, well, use the default for everything, or you can just say per network that you can configure them if you want to?
I believe that it's per network.
Yeah.
As we have default, which if you set up a Tor proxy, then default is only used for IP. So I believe that you can set up a proxy for additionally. So aside from setting up a Tor proxy for I2P and CJ DNS,
Yeah.
but I'll look that up. I actually, one question is, do we reuse this proxy labeled under Tor for any alternative network? I'll answer that question and get back in the chat.
It gets really messy if we have another multiple of these boxes below there. I'm hoping we can find something that's a little bit simpler.
For now, we can leave it for Tor because I imagine very, very few people are using I2P and CJ DNS.
Yeah.
And so the design for now can stay like this, and I'll circle back with the alternative networks on that.
Okay. And just to confirm here, where it says here, default proxy active, Tor proxy active, that is only, so I might have enabled it, but it might still not be active because none of the peers that I'm talking to are over Tor, right? So it's enabled but not active.
Yeah, that question, it would be, we know if we like enabled the proxy, and if we enabled the proxy, that's enough to say it's active.
Okay.
Because I don't know, Tor could be having a DOS attack and you can't find peers, but our proxy is definitely active.
Okay. So it's not used for, so we've enabled it. It's generally working as it should, but we may or may not have any connections that go through it, which can change here and there. Okay, cool.
Could a design solution be to the two headings? I don't know if this makes any sense. Default proxy and then alternative proxy. And under alternative proxy, you would have Tor proxy and you would have the options for I2P and CJ DNS. Could that be an option, or would that be?
Yeah, it just might get a really tall page.
Yeah.
So we might want to collapse them, or
exactly.
Just deep link into, I don't know, something.
At least from the technical side, that would definitely work. So that could be, some form, or we could figure out the design there. But so default and then alternative, and then you choose which alternative.
And then alternatives could be Tor, I2P, and CJ DNS.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Is it also possible to have like two or three types of proxies set up and used at the same time?
Yeah, actually, I don't know right now. I don't know if it's just these two that can be set up, or that the GUI has only allowed two to be set up, and you could set up more. So I'll circle back on that.
Okay, so we have about 18 minutes left. We're getting pretty deep into things here.
Yes, sorry, Christoph.
Yep, go ahead.
So I just wanted to like quickly, I was just like listening to what both of you are like saying, and I just looked at the timeline that we have added, like estimating how long it's like gonna like take us. So for just this issue, it looks like we have to figure out the design and then we have to implement it, right? So like how long might this take? And that would be like that who could influence when is the 1.1 milestone, and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but hopefully it takes as little time as possible.
Yeah, but I think it, like you're pointing out a good thing. It's good to practice time estimation. Especially, it's gonna suck. You're gonna get it wrong. maybe you'll probably get it wrong a lot even later, but over time, ideally, you get better. And I think that's a good thing that we could start doing, assuming that it's not going to be always perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we could just like begin with like any like a rough estimate, like it. Yeah, okay, it takes 2 days to do the design. It takes 2 days to implement it. 2 days of back and forth. That's like 6 days. Pump it up to 7, and then see how it goes. Like we don't have to like, as you said, like we will figure out how long these things actually take as we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from my side, I'd like to go through these design issues. Main thing is get this board set up, get things in there, and then I'd like to review all of the design details for each of those issues. And then in parallel, while the implementation of those is happening, work on the basic app navigation. So that's moving forward. And I can show a little bit about the basic app navigation just to show what's in my head there. Let's see. Let's try this preview. Yeah, this one, yeah. Okay, so you can see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't get all the way through, but this is generally what I was thinking of. So main thing is here the top, right? So we have this top bar that shows you your wallet and your balance. You click it, and then you get this little drop down that lets you switch between different wallets. Maybe you can add a new one. The question here is, do we have a dedicated wallet page? Do we need one? Or is this cool? This type of thing. No need to answer it right now. Then we have the activity screen. In here, I can have a page I see a list of transactions. I click a transaction, I see the details. So also, is this a little overlay or does this go full screen? Something to think about. Then let's say I go to send. In the send form, there's probably other stuff that comes up. Like I might need to select coins. I might need to go through all the addresses in my wallet. I might need to pick fees, and maybe that's a modal, or maybe it's something else. Then maybe the send screen is a modal, the confirmation, or maybe it goes full screen. And maybe that's a bit different if you do batch transactions versus one-offs. Then in receive, we have request history, we have contacts, like all the previous addresses you previously sent to, and then the create invoice, which I didn't mock up, but that's also like, is this a little overlay or is this a full screen? And then in the top right, we can go to the block clock. Here for the block clock, we should ask, is there a full screen option, especially on mobile, if we want this to be like this showcase type of thing? And then settings. So I'm distinguishing here between wallet settings and application settings. So if I switch to a different wallet, the wallet settings here would update. Application settings would just be for everything. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about what we need, what this application structure involves. So you just have placeholder pages, but all the pages are pretty much there. They're just empty. They just tell you what's going to be on there. And in here are already a bunch of decisions. So for example, if we look at mobile, do we have 3 tabs at the bottom? And then block clock on the top left, wallet switcher top center, settings on the top right. One of the considerations here is also for desktop and mobile is, this on desktop always exposes your balance. On mobile with the daily spending wallet, we've said we will not show your balance on the home screen. So we could do the same for desktop. And so here for this design, maybe send is the default screen on mobile. Like you open it up, you're on the send screen, not on the activity. So instead of the balance being in some bar always visible, you have to go to the activity screen that shows your balance and your transactions. And then it's the same question. Does everything kind of slide up from the top or left and right? Which things are modals? Which things are not modals?
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that I think this first task would be about figuring out.
Yeah,
and implementing.
this is awesome stuff. I think this, I don't know if you guys would like agree with me, but I feel like it kind of does go back to like one of the questions I had, like the design for desktop and for mobile can be like might have to be a little bit different, right? I mean, models are great on mobile, but on desktop they are a bit of an eyesore. So maybe the navigation is different, and
Yeah, exactly. Those are the details that we really should figure out. Ideally, at the end of this exercise, we have 2 prototypes that allow us to click through all the different screens, basically.
yeah. And like another way we could maybe approach this is that for like this item we open up 2 issues. One of them has the design label, and that's where we have all this conversation, and then we have like a regular issue, and that is about the code and building that design,
I
and we
like
can
that
link
idea.
them. Yeah.
I like that idea very much. 2 issues, one is for the design and one for the development.
Yeah, and after the design is done, we should put that all. We should spec it out. We should document it and all of this stuff. And in I wrote a little bit about it in the Google Doc, how I would see the progress go. So we don't have a lot of time, but maybe you can just read through it. I think initially when we explore all the possibilities for that we can do with navigation, it's good to have a whole bunch of brain power. But when it gets specific to like finalizing the last little bits of details and writing a bit of documentation, it's fine if just 1 or 2 people wrap things up. But then at the end, when it's about implementing that stuff and testing it, it's helpful if more people help test the implementation another round. So I think we kind of have an ebb and flow of design responsibilities and how many designers we actively need in the process. That'd be a good thing to be aware of too. But anyway, Harold and Johnny, what do you think of my visualization of this navigation task? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the question I have is how do we get, or how does, so this is a question for you guys. How does the designer consensus work there? So how do we like get all designers in agreement that okay, like this is a good foundation for the app navigation? Or I guess there's not that many designers, so.
Yeah. So I think that's where that process helps too. So we've done this in other projects too. So we have these 4 Ds, right? First is discover. The whole group does broad exploration. You can kind of stretch. You define the extreme boundaries of what can be done and gather all the ideas. Then you narrow in on 2 to 3 solutions that are actually kind of realistic, and maybe some people have different ideas or so. But then through feedback and discussion, you have to narrow down to 1. And that 1 should pretty much work out, but you don't have all the details. And then in design, you really create the highly detailed specs, and then you implement it, right? And then you support developers and all of this stuff. And some minor tweaks always happen at the end here, but because there's this multi-step process, that should be enough time to get everyone on board. But I mean, I don't know. Everyone else also has to say how much input do you want to have on this, or how quickly should we move?
Yeah, I think testing out, like, I'm just thinking from a research perspective, testing out, like, I don't know how you guys would like to do it, but I know with milestone that we're working on now, we brought it into development first, and then I ran the designs. We did live testing on the designs after development. Would you guys still like to do it like that, or would you guys like to also, if let's say the whole how could you say let's say the whole send process has been fleshed out, all the screens, would you guys then like to do some testing on that full screen state, those screens in the prototype form? Or would you say, hey, let's just move it into development? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. So there are two things here. One is our internal consensus, and then one is the external validation.
Yeah.
So for our internal, I think if we all work very publicly and we have these 4 steps where we know, like right now we're exploring different ideas, we lay it all out, then we pick the ones that we're happy with, and then we whittle it down to one.
Mm-hmm.
If that works for everyone, then that helps with our internal consensus.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, consistent exposure and doing some testing and sharing prototypes would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
It might save a bit of the, because I don't know, I'm just thinking like if we have like a fair amount of screens, a fair amount of the user flow to test out, we could just test that out. So I could try to focus on testing out chunks and buckets of the user flow and trying to figure out when is the best time to test that, fitting in with the design process. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
yeah, I like had a suggestion, but I saw Johnny unmute himself like a couple of times, so I just wanted to let him speak first.
I was just going to warn that prototypes are really expensive, so don't prototype everything. Prototype critical paths.
Yeah.
Probably Send is worth prototyping.
Yeah.
But I
Send
mean,
extra
just envision different tool here, a different decade. But Figma prototypes are very easy to create.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, prototypes are always ideal, but but it is work. So
Yeah.
don't overcommit. But if I don't know Figma's new tools very well, so if they have some good prototypes, that would be amazing. Because the design you choose initially is going to lock us in for quite a while in terms of engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add a point there, with the engineering side, it'd be great if on the flow, on the basic app navigation flow, we also thought about the OS sort of menu integration. So on Mac OS, that's like if you open Safari, you have file, window, and you can go into some of the screens.
Yeah.
We should also think about that, so we know how do we build out the navigation so that it can shortcut to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. Like I always felt that there are like some of these universal apps that don't have that, and I find that menu items on the top like really super duper useful. Yeah, yeah, this thing.
And this is just a
Yeah.
mapping of the current ones.
Yeah, but I love this, and I think like this is what like allows the desktop apps to be super powerful in a way that the mobile apps cannot be, and I love this.
Um, we're at the 3-minute mark, and I know Christoph and I need to move on to our next call. Christoph, what do you what would you like to do as next steps? And is there anything that we can do to help you to set up the project milestone board or anything like that?
Yeah, I think just getting that board running would be really helpful.
Yeah.
I'm curious what as we go into this, and something that Johnny mentioned, that the initial design will lock us in for some time. Made me think about. I'm curious what everyone's concerns are with all of this stuff. Just in general, it could be project management related, time, design, tech execution. Just kind of curious.
Yeah, I would say time is a big thing.
Yeah.
We might be overestimating our productivity.
But I mean, so far,
that said, I think your navigation flow is really solid. I think the foundation there is really good. The things that are gonna, my warning was more about send flow being very complex, so that could trip us up when we get there.
yeah, I agree. The send flow, particularly in the future, if you have multi-sig stuff happening, hardware signing, batch transactions, it can get super complicated. Forgot what else I was going to say. But we another thing is we don't have to only wait for calls to do a lot of this stuff. We can just continue these conversations all the time in Discord as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's up to me then to figure out the repo stuff. Okay, I'll try to review that. And Harold, I'll also, if there's detailed stuff, I'll either post it directly on Discord or in a private chat with you. If there's
Yeah,
any
and I'll
nitty-gritty.
post the notes from here from some of the steps we talked about, and if we have the board set up, I'll fill in that board with those tasks that I wrote down.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, you guys have another call, right? So
Yeah.
we're on the last
And
minute.
just one thing, Johnny, you said something about overestimating our productivity. So far, we haven't put any times in stone, but yeah.
Well,
There's a couple of dates thrown out in the beginning that I'm skeptical of.
Yeah, I have finished current app feature set for due in a week.
Okay.
Maybe overestimating productivity there, but we'll get at least some.
Yeah, I think so. But I think if we get the task board up, we'll be able to make better calls.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can also hold each other accountable for things. We can give each other crap.
Yeah.
in a friendly way.
Yes, it's really good for that.
Yeah. Can I make one quick point before we stop? One quick thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just we talked about the process, right? We talked about the process, like those 4Ds, and talked about testing and all of that. I think this is another place where where the project board itself can really help, because where we have the Kanban board, and we only have to do, in progress, and done. And what we can do is that we can bake our process into these,
Yeah.
add certain items, to do, designing, uh, design ready, development, testing, done. And so that could be a way to bake our process into this. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
man.
I also need to hop off for this other call, but I agree. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna stop the recording real quick, and then thanks for anyone
All right,
watching
cool.
this later. Thanks for tuning.